Mark Shulman is currently the SVP of Programming at UBS Arena. With 25 years experience, Mark established the AEG office in New York, expanded the company's footprint into multiple cities through acquisitions and booking partnerships, and supervised thousands of concert bookings while promoting several national tours and shows at MetLife Stadium, the Great Lawn in Central Park, Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, and through his successful time at AEG, Mark has worked with high-profile artists from Prince, Fish, and Jay-Z to Jennifer Lopez, Fall Out Boy, and Paul McCartney. Mark is also a member of the recently established advisory board for the New York City Mayor's Office of Citywide Events, focused on the impact of COVID-19 and developing new safety guidelines for all events. We talked about you a little bit before when we had class on Tuesday, Mark, but Mark has really been behind the scenes in some really, really critical moments, certainly in New York City's nightlife and music life. So it's a great opportunity to have him. And then also what's not mentioned in the bio is the pivot to a little bit of nonprofit working at Global Citizen. So as I tell you guys all to have diverse interests, this is a manifestation of how it's done and how it's done right. So with that, I will turn the mic over to you, Brother Mark, and we will give you the polite Zoom golf clap as you come in here.
Thank you, Wes. And I want you to know that everything that Wes just described is true, but I do not think of myself at all in that way. To me, it's very much a journey, and as much as my accomplishments look really nice on paper to me, we learn as promoters, as entrepreneurs, like we really look forward. It's about creating opportunities and taking your knowledge and your experience and figuring out how to apply it to what you do. At times I can reflect a little bit back on my goals when I was just starting out into the business. And I will say that I never really envisioned I would ever achieve as much as I have, but I'm still that same person I was the day I did my first event, that when I looked at it and I said, well, I have an idea. I think I can make this happen. There's going to be problems, going to be challenges. I'm going to have to break through a lot of walls and not take no for an answer a lot of times, and probably irritate a whole bunch of people, So I'll leave you with that part just to say that when you are endeavoring to get into doing something that is either fresh, new, never done before, or the thing that everyone says, that'll never happen. The key thing is really having confidence that you can drive that through, and, getting great consultation and staying on your path, staying on your plan. A bit about my background, just to understand, I was an undergrad at Penn State University, and my first, I grew up a big concert fan. My friends and I, we went to stadiums, we went to arenas, we went to amphitheaters, everywhere. We just loved going to live shows. I did not think I was going to end up in the concert business. I actually went to college to be a television and film major, probably leaning more toward the television than the film. And almost by chance, I ended up signing up. I signed up for a whole bunch of activities, and one of them was the University Concert Committee. It was my first month at Penn State. It was 40,000 kids. I knew hardly anyone. And I signed up for probably 7 things that day. And the concert committee called me and said, hey, we've got this concert. Do you want to come and work on it? It's like, I like concerts. Sure, why not? That first day I was unpacking trucks, setting up lights. It was a lot of manual labor. I worked 20 hours. It was exhausting. I got $20 and a t-shirt. And at that moment I knew, I was like, this is what I want to do. I had no idea how to do it. I was a film major who wanted to go be in concerts, a major that Penn State didn't offer. But I got more involved with the concert committee. I started managing bands. I started doing, I learned how to do sound a little bit, at least enough that I could function and work in the bars downtown. Ended up working on doing the sort of the Spring Fling concert. And then I you get yourself out there. And I was fortunate that in my senior year at college, they were opening up the new arena. And I worked myself in there, just, proactively made phone calls, got introduced, and got myself a job as the head of production. I was 21 years old and I was the head of production at an arena. I have no idea what made them think that I should have had that job. I have no idea what made me think that I could do that job, but I did it. So, and oftentimes I will look back on that. And there was another project at AEG where I supervised, and it's hard to kind of sum this up. It was kind of my idea. We needed a new venue in New York. We didn't have any venues. How am I going to get one? So I went and I found a real estate agent. I found a construction company. We ended up building what became the Nokia Theater in Times Square. Later on, I look back and go, what made them think at 26 years old they should let me do this $25 million project? And what I say to you is that if at that time I felt that, I actually felt it backwards. And in those days, I said, I can do this. Looking back, I said, now knowing what I know, they probably shouldn't have let me. But what I'll say to you is, as that young person looking forward, don't let that stop you. Because if at that age I had said, I can't do this, I don't know what I'm doing, I never would have done it. So my career path then, I went and I tested out a lot of things. And while I knew I wanted to work in the music business or concerts, some of the most valuable things that I did were opportunities that led me to learn what I didn't want to do. So I interned one summer at a radio station in New York City, met some people, learned how to use the subway system, learned, most importantly, I did not want to work in radio. After I decided, I did production for a long time. The production personnel are incredibly important. They are the first people in and the last people out. There are people who are built for that, and that is their most favorite part of the show. I was originally attracted to that because, growing up, I was like, I just saw that show and I got to know what's going on behind. I want to know what's going on behind that stage. I got back there and it's interesting, but I realized I didn't want to live there. So I quit my production jobs, and through the connections that I had, I managed to get myself a job as an agency assistant in New York. I spent 2 years at an agency, and what I learned there is I didn't want to be an agent. Agents do important work, but it got me onto the business side where I wanted to be, but too far from the backstage, because the truth is that the agent cuts the deal, they route the tour, but when they get to the actual show, they have nothing to do. And I was like, well, now I'm too far removed. Now I want to get back in the show, but not backstage. So I secured a position at Metropolitan Entertainment, which was a concert promoter at the time. And that was before the roll-up of when SFX purchased all of the regional promoters, eventually flipped it to Clear Channel, which eventually went public and became what we now know as Live Nation. But that led me on a path toward being a promoter, which is very much where I stayed and have stayed. But within being a promoter, it's the actual function of working with an agent, working with an artist, putting a show on sale, selling it, producing it, settling it, managing your business also comes with creating business plans, doing real estate development, managing construction. You become food and beverage operators, because in essence, the concert venues, when you go and you look at them, you see the stage, you see the box office, they're giant bars. And that's really it. That they're all of the money that goes in the door basically goes to the artist and hopefully covers all your costs. What you're left with at the end is what we'll call ancillary income. And that really is comprised of fees, merchandise, food and beverage sales, and parking if you have it. There's sponsorship in some venues, but let's just focus on the smaller stuff, because if you get into the bigger venues, the revenue streams change dramatically. You get to premium sales and secondary market and all that. So along that path, and I I was fortunate, and I've had, there's a certain amount of luck, some of it's opportunity, some of it's luck, some of it's preparation. That by going into AEG, which was what we started in 2003 after Metropolitan got bought by the Clear Channel behemoth, and Clear Channel bought Metropolitan and fired everyone. They tried to hire me and a couple people, but we didn't go. We started AEG, and AEG is now this giant worldwide, megacorp. At the time, it was about 20 people. Like it grew that dramatically, that quickly. But when you think back to the first days of AEG, or the first day, and we all walk in and we're all sitting in a tiny office down in Greenwich Village, 8 of us sitting around a table staring at each other going, how do you build a concert company? None of us had ever done it. But we had professionals and relationships, and everyone sort of dug in and did something. And I seized on the opportunity to go build a venue in addition to doing shows and help operate the business. Some people are operators, some are bookers, marketers, box office production, and you get all the different elements, but you need that right balance. You'll find that most concert partnerships, and whether they're festivals or companies, it's usually more than one person. It's usually 2, sometimes 3. And if you need the right combination of that, sort of the music visionary with the operations guru, and then sometimes you need someone who sits between them to translate, because those 2 ends usually don't communicate very well. The visionary just says, we have to go do this, and can't seem to figure out the dollars and cents. The operator's going, yeah, you can't do it, and here's why. And then someone needs to sit in the middle and go, here's how we connect those dots. And by being involved with AEG at the very beginning, and it opened doors for me to do development, to learn how to work on. I'd never done it before, so there were stumbles along the way, and I also had some great mentors who helped me learn the business. And I didn't have a business degree. I had a degree in how to set up sound and lights, and call agents, like that. That doesn't really help you when someone wants you to calculate the rate of return on their investment. So you have to learn those things along the way if you want to go and get into that. Particularly, you want to raise money, or you need to find ways to sustain your business through challenging times like what we're having right now. I can talk forever about a lot of these different areas, but one thing that, just going back to something that Wes had mentioned earlier, I've always, and it's a lot of why I'm here today and happy to speak to you, because I did not have access to professionals and people in the business when I was a student. They weren't taking my call. There was no, it's great. I can make myself sound really old. There was email, but no one really had an email address. You had to go find someone and call them, and cold call them out of the blue and say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'd like to talk to you, but can you teach me about this? Can I learn about that? People were not really even in that mindset. But now there are a lot of resources. You are able to reach out to people. You are able to expand your horizons. And through my travels, through my concert path, I always kind of think of it like a tree, which is that I want to sort of have these other areas, so I worked with some people in fashion. I worked with some people who were in, maybe it was cosmetics, maybe it was nonprofit, anywhere that I felt that it was a passion and maybe not along my path exactly, but that by building those relationships, we found ways to tie it all back together, so that when suddenly they wanted to do, I had a lot of friends over at Milk Studios, and suddenly they had, Kanye wants to do a launch, and he called us and he wants to play tonight in our basement. And it was like, can you help us? And next thing you know, we would go do that. But vice versa, when I needed a photographer to go do a special shoot for me, I could call them up, and they would not only get me an amazing photographer, they would send over all the camera equipment, right? So you build these relationships along the way. And one of those was getting involved with Global Citizen. And I helped create their event on the Great Lawn. They came to me and said, we want to do this giant concert. And we want to have the idea was a little different than where it ended up with Global Citizen. Originally, the idea was that it was going to have a ticket price and that your activism is your currency. But they say you could take that $50 ticket, but if you performed enough, good deeds, actions, whether it was tweeting at a world leader or signing a petition or calling a senator to help support efforts to eradicate extreme poverty, you could bring that ticket down from $50, maybe all the way down to $5. It was an incentive. Well, but they wanted to be on the Great. Well, they wanted to be in arenas. We started talking about the Great Lawn, but at the time, the idea of anyone really doing anything on the Great Lawn of Central Park was sort of the unthinkable. And I sort of spent, an hour and a half meeting with them and telling them why all of their ideas would never work. And then we said, but here's what you can do. And then we started off creating, and, that was an organization of 3 or 4 employees that now I think is up to 150 all over the world. So I've got to watch their growth and be a part of it. I produced their first 5 festivals, and then ultimately I've stayed on the board, so helped guide the organization. And then as COVID hit and all of our events shut down and I had left AEG in March, I did join up with Global Citizen for a few months over the summer and ran a couple great campaigns. I mean, it's sort of an example of how your relationships that you develop and the trust that A-list, when I say A-list, I don't mean from a celebrity, I'm just saying, the top managers, the top agents who represent those top artists, when you come to them with an idea and they know that you are someone who knows how to work with those clients and won't ever put their client in a situation where they're going to look bad, you can get them to do some very out of the box things. So when it came to Global Citizen this summer, I oversaw 2 campaigns. One was called Global Aid for Lebanon, which I worked with Sal Slaby, who's the manager of The Weeknd, and he's Lebanese. And after the explosion in the port of Beirut, which displaced 300,000 people and the country fell into a lot of turmoil, we ran a campaign and raised $1.2 million that we gave to the World Food Program, and got artists like The Weeknd and DJ Snake and a lot of their friends to contribute, in addition to by running a press campaign and putting it out, we initially seeded it with about $200,000 or $300,000 from key people. But what then came back was we put the message out there, and then about another $950,000 came back at us, where people were sympathetic to the cause, but they don't really know what to do. It's like, you can go to Red Cross and give $10, but if you want to give a substantial sum or you want to make sure it's going to the right people to use for the right thing, you need to put that out there with that mechanism, and that's what we're able to do. And the other was the Just Vote campaign, which included, I think we were up to 25 or 30 different artist experiences, which we used as incentives to get young people to register to vote, and to put them into a communications flow whereby after you registered, you would receive information about how to vote. There's 50 states with 50 different voter regulations, and it's one of the challenges we have in the United States. But whether there's early voting, mail-in voting, absentee voting, drop boxes, so many different regulations. So we wanted to simplify that. So we got together with, we had incentives from Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Shawn Mendes, all the way to Eddie Vedder or, the Grateful Dead. Like we just managed to get a real great cross section to help get the word out. And it's just a good example of where being involved in music, being involved in concerts, building those relationships also create opportunities to utilize them in different ways than just let's put out music, let's have shows. The power of the musicians and their fan bases is substantial, and it's definitely something that if that is something that motivates you, if that's something that gets you really excited, it's a way that you can apply your skills in a different way with a different effect. But for me personally, when we were in this summer and I was not doing shows, the thing that I've been doing for 30 years, suddenly someone saying you can't do it. It was a great outlet for me to say, I want to put some good back in the world. I want to utilize my skills and my knowledge in a way that, is helpful to others. And then just to sort of bring you up to today, 3 weeks ago, I started a position as the head of programming for the new UBS Arena, which is under construction. It's going to be at Belmont Park on Long Island. And it's a joint venture between the New York Islanders, who are going to be the anchor tenant, and Oakview Group, which is a partnership of Irving Azoff and Tim Leiweke. I don't know how much you guys have learned about Irving and Tim, but they're both worth investigating if you want to learn about managers and large-scale operators. Irving's probably the most powerful manager that really there ever was. It's kind of even hard to, I can say that, and it's weird because I'm not even sure that's in dispute at this point. So it's a great project. And for me, not only was it exciting to get involved with them, but also I was not terribly motivated over the summer by a lot of the, what I'll call COVID concerts, right? The pandemic concerts, whether they were the drive-ins or little pop-up shows, that's all fine. But to me, I did not want to invest my time into building a business that would substantially be out of business when business gets back to usual. So I really wanted to go and find something that I could work on that would be preparing for the next phase, that's going to focus on wellness and sanitization and how to bring people back safely to events, not what we do while other people figure those things out, because those things need to be figured out. So the arena is under construction. It's due to open December of 2021. And my conversations have been, I've been working the phones nonstop for the past 2 weeks, talking to agents and managers and various professionals around the industry. If you think anyone has the answer to how this comes back and when, the answer is definitely not. I have spoke to the highest people at the highest levels of the highest companies. No one knows. We have a lot of ideas, but the unknowns outweigh the knowns at this point. But for me to now take an opportunity, and we talk about going back to starting AEG, or even going and doing concerts as that young person when I was still in college, to me, that's where I am today. I am now working on an arena that is right now a bunch of concrete and steel and completely open. It has to be staffed, branded. I'm building seating charts. I mean, we have no box office person, no marketing person, no production person. It's all me right now. I mean, there's 2 arena employees. And to be honest, that's the most exciting thing I'm doing right now. Calling up people and talking about when we're going to do shows. Like, I'm digging into seating charts. And when I look back on it, the fact that at various points in my career, I did that work. I've worked in the box office. I've done marketing. I can do all of that with confidence that I know what I'm doing because I did those jobs. It also made me an effective leader because when I went and I would talk to the box office people, they knew that I at least understood their challenges. Not that I knew how to, they do the job better than me. Someone who works all day in a box office building national shows, they will do it better than I will, but I can at least understand their challenges and give them the resources that they need. And at least when it comes to building a basic seating chart, that I can do. I can do coordinator level ticketing work, but understand the VP level work. And I would encourage everyone, if you want to go and anything. I mean, this isn't just a concert, like do every job, learn every job, even if it's just a little bit, go spend a day sitting somewhere, if you have a sales team, like just go hang out with them, see how they do it, learn how it works, because to really operate a large company, a large venture of any kind, you going in there and saying in the meeting, you're not just witness, right? You're there to add and to try to guide in a way that will be additive. And that to me was always my management style, right? I don't want to micromanage. I want to help support or connect, which is the other thing, which is sometimes people would come and we'd be talking about something and they'd say, well, we're trying to, what's the challenge we're working on today? Well, we're trying to figure out how to increase a certain sale, or we're trying to reduce expenses or streamline our operation. And often it was, well, have you spoke to so-and-so? They go, well, we don't know who that is. Well, great, let's connect you, because I was never really big on third-party consultants. I think a lot of people like to rely on that, where they sort of bring in someone else who maybe makes the hard decisions that they don't want to make. This is more about, hey, let's go see if they'll tell us how they're doing it, because they're doing it really great. And usually if you have that kind of relationship where people, it's not a competitive situation as much as a collegial relationship, you'd be surprised just how willing someone is to sit down and open the book and say, hey, this is how I'm doing it. How are you doing it? Because if there's a professional respect, a mutual admiration, you want that back and forth. Sometimes even amongst competitors. I mean, some of my biggest competitors and I are very good friends because there's a professional part to it. But in the end, we're all, I often say we're all, in the music business and the entertainment business, we're all cousins, right? We don't have to be best friends or whatever, but you know what? We're all in it together, and nothing exposed that more than COVID, because we all went out together. Everyone's got this challenge, and now we as an industry, in a way that never has happened before, need to come together. And I don't know if you saw it all. I mean, if obviously I just through my feeds and everything, I see a lot of press, but there were a couple, I think Chase Rice did a concert. There were a couple people along the way early in, call it May or June, that sort of popped up and did a concert. It was somewhere, it was legal, right? It was some locality, somewhere in the country, someplace where they were, not as concerned about the virus, and they did a show. And now here, you can almost imagine the phone call. The agent calls the manager, hey, this guy's calling, he wants to pay you 50 grand. And meanwhile, this guy's reading it, the artist is reading his social media, and the fans like, we want to see you, we miss seeing you. And like the artists hear that in their head. It's like, oh, my fans want me, they got to see me, right? So they go and they do this. But the backlash that happened from those first few shows, interestingly, didn't come from the government or even necessarily fans. It was other artists who actually called out those artists and said, I'm at home sacrificing my livelihood and to keep my fans safe, to get us all back to playing the way that we're supposed to. And your actions are damaging the rest of us as an artist community. And it kind of stopped. It was the artists who stopped other artists from doing it. And as we move forward, whether it's arenas and concert promoters or agents, managers, we as an industry will all need to come together. And, this is not like we're going to turn on if we just open the hose, there's going to be problems. Like, we have to figure out how to not only do it safely, but make people feel safe, right? Because even if they are safe, they may feel unsafe. And that's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're unsafe or you feel unsafe. We need to sell tickets, and these are joyous events, right? Every show is a celebration of community, of music, of friends, and you can't do that if you feel like you're in danger. So I don't know. I think that's I think I've rambled about 30 minutes. So I don't know, Wes, how was that?
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I think we could listen to that, all day. But we're gonna open up to Q&A. So just if you have a question, I know some people have already hit me. So we're gonna go with Holly and Charlie are gonna set us off. And then if you want to ask your questions, put it in the chat. But just one thing, Mark, I just appreciate you saying that, because I told them weeks ago about the need to sort of diversity of skill, of how valuable that is. Of people telling you to do one thing is actually, when you get to the real world, is not as marketable as you saying. So you do all the things. I guess I also didn't realize that the arena was in such that stage of construction, that there's literally, I I assumed it was, going to come live on. So it's still, I was looking on the site and everybody, I posted some links in the chat. So they're still in the middle of construction then.
Very much so. And I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal arena. I take absolutely no credit. I had nothing to do with the design. I would have loved to have been there during the design, but that's not the way it worked out, because I would have had a great passion for being involved in that process. But I'm the beneficiary of some very, very smart people, very experienced people. And it's the more I dig into it and the more I find all the little Easter eggs that they put all over this place in terms of like just great bars, great experience. It's going to have great transit, which you're gonna be able to get from Penn Station to this arena in 30 minutes. I mean, it's going to open up a very different avenue in the marketplace. But I haven't actually been to the construction site. People have asked me, well, you've gone. And I go, well, not really, because it's a challenge. They have to build that in the middle of the pandemic, and a COVID outbreak at that site will shut it down. I mean, you got $1 billion construction project, and I've just sort of said, you know what, like what I have to personally gain by walking that site right now is not worth the risk. Show me the pictures, whatever, and by the way, I've done the hard hat tour on 20 or 30 or 40 projects. I have to tell you, you don't really get a whole lot till the place is finished, right? Look at the renderings, whatever. You can get a feel for it, but in the end, none of that really matters. But it's a tremendous project, and it's the same team that is doing the arena in Seattle, which I do encourage everyone to take a look at that, because a lot of people don't realize exactly what's happening at that arena. They consider it, so there was Key Arena. It was built at the time of the World's Fair. I think it was, I want to say 1940, something. Was that too old? I don't know. It was a very interesting arena, had a very iconic roof. And what they did was they actually created steel structures to support the roof, and then demolished the entire arena, dug down 30 feet. So they had this roof basically on stilts while they repoured the concrete and built the arena back underneath the existing roof. It is truly one of the most amazing engineering marvels. No one's ever done it. The fact that they did it is, you want to talk about, the unthinkable project, the thing that, everyone would tell you can't happen. They're doing it. So take a look at that one as well. These are what are considered third generation arenas. That we had the original, I just call them the concrete bunkers, right? They had no windows. They were just a lot of metal, and they were very cold looking, hard surfaces. Starting in around the 90s and 2000s, we started building these arenas that had more amenities. Suddenly there were bars and more suites and things like that. This is the next evolution, where these arenas actually start the comfort factors, the technology, all of the elements that go into it are put out in front of just the straightforward monetary consideration. That the feel of a place, the vibe of a venue, the things that we put into, it's not new. If you go back to the theaters built in the 1920s, there were these glorious palaces, right, that people understood, and they were mostly built for movies, but it was that there were these venues, and vibe was so important, and that sort of got lost somewhere between 50s and 80s and 90s. In that time period, all of those amazing palace theaters were actually torn down. A lot of them are gone because people stopped valuing them. Now it's unthinkable that with the gold leaf interiors and the murals and the statues, that someone took a wrecking ball to it and turned it into a 7-Eleven. Now we have finally, and I hope we hold on to it. We can't guarantee anything because, somehow, the original Penn Station in New York got knocked down. It's like, how on earth could they ever have done it? But at the time, that wasn't valued. The new arenas now, that is something that is really being factored in, that these are places that not only does the show is one element, the venue is able to enhance it. Where you experience show, when we talk about iconic venues and iconic places, that these are the best places to see a show, that's what you're aiming to create.
Yeah. Thanks. So we're going to go to Holly's going to ask the first question, which is sort of a question that everybody has, similar to yours, Charlie. So you might want to think about another one. But go ahead, set us off.
Yeah, sorry, Charlie. My question was kind of like his, just like you kind of touched upon this, but what do you think live industry, like the live entertainment industry with like music and everything will be like now due to COVID? Do you think that it'll go back to like normal, or do you think that it's permanently damaged?
Well, I'll give you an opinion. It's only an opinion. And I've met with city officials, and, I've been on video chats with people from the World Health Organization. So take it for what it's worth, that here's what I've heard and what I've cobbled together from all the information. That yes, we will be back. Yes, it will be, I believe, as strong as ever. I don't know exactly how long that will take. I believe that we are probably going to, a certain percentage of our population is going to remain a mask population. So I think we should factor in that it's just going to be, I think we saw it in, most, parts of Asia, where after dealing with MERS and SARS, that, I think that, we would see Asian travelers come to the United States and wear masks. And to us, it was like, why are these people wearing masks? And now we're in it, right? And you go, okay, well, so I think that there'll be an element of that. And I think that, well, look, live entertainment goes back to people, putting on theater and dancing, in caves. Okay. It's deeply rooted within the human experience. It's going to come back. It's going to be strong, even at times when so much has shifted to, online entertainment, or you see like there was kind of a burst in April, May, June of like, oh, look at all these great webcasts, but now no one's really excited about it. I'm not a great believer in webcasts. They have value, but they are no replacement for it. And I say that not because I'm in the live business. I could have been a person who wanted to make albums, and a lot of my friends who were in the record business, and they were big shots in the early 2000s. And by 2007, Napster had put them all out of business until streaming eventually came back and there was more revenue. But we coming up in the live business, we were like the blue collar workers of the music business. Like no one really gave us a lot of respect. It was all about the record company people, the managers, and that's where the money was. And then when the bottom fell out of that, all of a sudden everyone wanted to be in concerts. And it's rooted to me in the fact that the live experience is not something you can replicate. We've gone through, technology has tried to disrupt the concert experience, and a lot of people have made those efforts, whether it was through VR technology, things like that. And, we had all the people from Oculus, and they would come to us and do demos of their VR headsets. And they were very, very impressed. And they shot like a U2 concert, and you put on the headset and you were in the front row of the U2 concert, and you could look around and there were people and everything. And we take it off and they'd be like, isn't that amazing? I'd be like, no. Like, what do you mean that's not amazing? You were just at the front row of a U2 concert. I go, it looked really cool. You know what the problem was? My friends weren't there. Like, that's great in my living room, but that's not why I went to a show. I went to me and my friends were having where's my wife? Where's my friends? I've now been like transported into this thing. So my belief is that built-in, baked-in value of the live experience, and that's, by the way, that's sports, it's Broadway, it's like, this is not just concerts, right? This is everything live. Will come back, and will come back strong. And if anything, one of the overarching marketing, theories we run with on everything is if you want someone to want something, tell them they can't have it. And we have told a lot of people for a long time at this point, you can't have it, more than we could have ever possibly imagined. We would have never shut down all the concerts just to make sure everyone started appreciating it more, because You know, the average person, I think the stat, the last one, the average person goes to 1.7 concerts a year. But you have to understand that statistic means that there's 70% of the population goes to 0 concerts. And then there's a whole bunch of people that they go to 8 or 10 or 12, and that's part of their lifestyle. So I am hoping that by virtue of having taken it away from a lot, we may actually bring back a lot of people who were like, you know what, I used to go to shows, or I talk to people, they're like, yeah, I love going to shows. Why don't I go to concerts? It's like, it's just, they kind of fell out of the routine, or it just wasn't something that just, you know, pulled them, and they have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money or whatever. I believe that post-pandemic, we're going to bring back in a lot of people, and once they feel safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We've talked about that, as you can imagine, a lot in the class about what's going to happen. But you just introduced just another thought about the opportunity for customer reacquisition, right? Is that now they miss it, so now you have a chance to get. I never thought about that. The people who had opted out may want to come back now. So, but anyway, don't let me dominate it. But I want to just really quick switch speeds, because Kyle has a question a little bit more career centered that I really want to get your take on. So Kyle, you there? Did we lose him? Oh, yeah, you're on mute.
Hey, so my question was, what do you think is like the most efficient way right now to get into the music industry? Do you think it'd still be joining a concert committee? Like, is that still effective? And then also, like, do you think college is necessary to get into the music industry right now too? So kind of just the best way to get in your eyes.
They're great questions, Kyle. And I'm not sure that there's an exact right answer to either of those questions, except to say that, yes, I believe in concert committees. I believe in anything that gets you experience, whether if the opportunity in front of you is doing that, or it's going to go, and I don't care if you're working in the coat check, behind the bar, or whatever it is at a concert venue, whatever it is, get in the door, you know, start meeting people. It astonishes me to this day that most of my best connections, the people that I still talk to the most, are the people that I came up with in my 20s when we were all running. We're a bunch of assistants running around New York, and some of them are some of the biggest agents or working at labels and things like that, that we will have a connection in a way that I can go do a huge concert, a giant festival with someone tomorrow, but I will never have that relationship with them in the same way as I do with someone when we were both struggling to go fight. So build your relationships, meet people. You know, what you do that day is not as important as the fact that you are there and you're doing it and you're seeing how it really happens. As far as a degree,
Be
the
critical of
undergraduate
higher ed right here, Mark. It's fine. You can be critical.
No, there's going to be a nuance to the answer, which is, yes, you want a degree because that degree is going to be valuable to you no matter what you end up doing. And there's no guarantees of what you end up doing. So you're going to start down a path that maybe you're going to say, oh, I want to do this, and I'm not going to learn that in that class. I didn't learn about concerts with my degree, but the time that I had getting my degree helped me open doors that I was able to do things with. And you know, your collective experience that you have everywhere is going to matter. And maybe I would have ended up doing this. Maybe I would have ended up doing something else. Maybe if I didn't wander into that room that day and sign up for a concert committee, I might be doing something completely different right now. I have no idea what that would be. I will say that when I was graduating college and I would talk to the handful of people who were in the business who I considered mentors, who would give me advice about the business, I said, should I go get an MBA? Because I was like, you know what, I want to, you know, is there some type of graduate degree? Because I was kind of like, I was going to do it then, or I was going to do it never. Because I kind of knew that once I got into the working thing, I really wasn't going to go back and do it. Although a lot of people do that. And in fact, a lot of the business schools like you to have some work experience before you do your MBA. But everyone at the time said to me, no, it's a waste of money. Don't bother. Don't do it. Now, at the time, that wasn't wrong advice, because the concert business was very regional. The music business was kind of smaller dollars. wasn't consolidated. It wasn't owned by investment banks. It didn't involve foreign investment. Now, looking back on it, I probably would have greatly benefited if I could have figured out how to get myself a graduate degree to understand a lot of the things that I had to learn on my own and the things that I still don't understand. So the answer to yes, get a college degree, potentially get yourself a graduate degree, but none of that is a replacement for the experience and going out there. And, without naming schools, there's a couple schools that have a concert promotion degree, right? And we get people, they get to the end of their college and they send us the resume and go, look, I graduated with a degree in concert promotion. I'm ready to go. And we go, you don't know anything. I don't care where your degree is from. I don't care what your grades were. I care about what have you done, and particularly what you did to get yourself to that place, what type of initiative you showed, and what type of perseverance you showed. And the degree is important because it shows that you were able to complete that degree, that you were able to go follow a path, and that it led you to my doorstep. But I mean, if someone showed up with a degree from Harvard versus a degree from, 5 towns, I don't really care. But if you showed me that you sold merchandise at the Warped Tour and you worked at a theater and you helped sell tickets, or you were a runner in a festival, whatever it was, like, to me, that's going to stand out on top of the pile of resumes for everyone else who's just got a degree and lists, music as part of their interests.
Sounds eerily familiar, does it not, people, from a certain professor talking to you on Tuesday? I said a version of that very same thing. So I think it's, yeah. So Kyle, don't drop out, one. I think it, but all jokes aside, it's, one reason why I like Mark so much is that story of his career is similar to mine, right? And he's sort of excelled in ways, that I never really have on the live side. But it's both. It's not or, right? It's do the dirty work and get the good degree. That's probably why Mark, when I was trying to sell the program to him over the summer, why he loves what we're doing. This is the thing that you need, and what we used to do. But I do want to just quickly pivot. I'm going to go back and forth because Charlie had a question about your work in the mayor's office. And I'm sort of, they know I'm very fascinated with infrastructure and compliance and the laws and lobbying, things that you normally don't think about. So if you could, Charlie, ask your question, we can open up that chamber.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask, like, how difficult was it working with the New York City mayor's office? And if there's like a lot of politics involved, especially with COVID, and like, are there certain decisions you can and cannot make? Because I know for certain states, like mayor's offices and government were trying to push the comeback of live events for revenue sake. But like New York City, obviously a different example than the South, some of those other states. So I didn't know if you faced the same problems.
Well, New York City politics is bureaucracy times 1,000. And New York City's revenue issues at this moment far exceed anything that the events bring in. I mean, they have $8 billion tax revenue hole right now. When you think about $8 billion in a city, right? I mean, that's the GDP of most countries. So how they're going to pay teachers and firemen and police and everything, that is all going to be of paramount interest, and no one's sitting around saying they're going to collect it off of fees from park rentals and things like that. So the real challenge and what we worked on in the task force was what's possible. Where can we do things safely now? What do we think we can do safely in a year? What do you think we can do in 2 years? And when you're dealing with New York City citywide events, you're talking about everything from a little street fair to the Feast of San Gennaro, to concerts on the Great Lawn, Governor's Ball on Randall's Island, New York City Marathon, Thanksgiving Parade, the New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square, 4th of July fireworks. I mean, what goes on in that city on a daily basis is, New York is an incredible sponge. It is bizarre what can happen in that little space and its ability to just absorb it. So, and that office and those agencies, they do incredible work. That incredible work also comes with tremendous challenges, because when you're trying to do something different, everything affects everything. Everyone, it's all egalitarian. What happens for one has to happen for everyone. They can't let you do something no one else can. So when you're there trying to deal with your nuanced special event, and one in particular, by the way, I didn't always win. I tried very, very hard to do a festival in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park. I spent years working on this. This is a site. This is to me, a top 3 park in all of New York City, which really makes it a top 3 park of all of the world. It was built for the 1964 World's Fair, which had upwards of 200,000 visitors a day at its height. And it's a huge space and it's beautiful. And it was really politics is the reason I couldn't pull it off. And the answer was, if they gave it to me, they had to give it to everyone. It took me 3 years to get someone to finally say it to me. Like, we'd love to do this with you, but we don't want to have a festival here every weekend. And if we do one with you, we got to do one with everyone. And that's the thing to think about. So when you talk about working with them, whether it's difficult, it is extremely difficult to go do things that are different. If you are a cookie cutter and you just want to do another of something that already exists, not so hard. The framework's there, you just work within it, and they'll actually help you out and be great. It's a very accomplished group of folks, and they're very smart, but politics are huge.
Yeah, the Meadows, super dope festival, by the way. Yeah, that's a whole nother, yeah. We talk a lot about compliance. Is it, Mark, am I right? Isn't the Meadows when you had Kanye performing and like Kim got robbed in Paris while he was on stage? Isn't that the right?
So the one that I was trying to do at Flushing Meadows was Panorama.
Panorama, sorry.
That ended up at Randall's Island, because in the end, after I finally got denied, I was able to put it at Randall's Island, where Electric Zoo happens, where Governor's Ball happens, right? So ultimately, once I fell in line with the existing framework, it was all good. Then it was a piece of cake and everyone knew, it was easy. When I was trying to break out of the box, I was causing a lot of friction, but I have a history of doing that. What can I say? Like, I definitely always, like, if I have the vision and I want to do it, I can be kind of relentless about it, but I didn't burn bridges. There was a lot of unhappiness at the time. The Meadows was produced by Founders, the guys who do GovBall. They tried to do it in the park. They tried as I was trying to do it in Flushing Meadows, they followed up behind me trying to do it there. That was a little bit of a defensive jam technique, which is if you think you're going to give it to them, then you have to give it to us. So they invented that. But by the time the plug got pulled, they had a festival they had to do. So they put it in the Citi Field parking lot. So it was called the Meadows because it was named after Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, which is where I was trying to put it. And in the end, their meadow was a bunch of striped asphalt.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Yeah, we could spend a few hours talking about the history of festivals in New York City. But that is, by the way, and when we go back to what we were discussing before, how Wes and I became friendly was that when I was doing the festival in New York and he was doing his festival in New York, and even though you could have considered us competitors and that we were both doing large outdoor events in the city during the summertime, that actually sitting down and discussing it and talking about our mutual challenges and where we might be able to help each other or have some insights into that might be beneficial for everyone. That type of attitude is a way better way to operate. And ultimately, long term, you find out that whatever you're working on that day, often those things change, and then you're still left with each other because we're all cousins, right? So, and I have experience through my career that my greatest competitors, who I get up every single day and fight and fight and fight with, will often end up in the office next to me. It's just how it goes. You know, the deck gets reshuffled, and next thing you know, like, keep it professional, and because they'll be your work colleague sooner or later.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, to say that my festival is a competitor to yours is not an accurate comparison. It inflates our worth. We were much more niche, and I very much admired what Mark was doing. So I think don't be afraid to have that mutual admiration. And I will forever love Mark because he gave me all access tickets to Tribe Called Quest's last show, which 14-year-old Wes always dreamed of. So you always got that. But I do want to pivot. Noel has a question about you taking the gig at UBS and why you took it. And then I want to go to Ryan, who has another personal sort of question. So Noel, why don't you ask your question?
Hi, thanks for being here. I just had a question about, like, what about the UBS Arena project felt different from other, like, post-COVID opportunities, and what made you take the leap of faith, and why do you feel like you need to be a part of it?
Thanks for the question. I gotta know, do you play the guitars, or are they decorative?
No, I can play them.
I can see, I mean, you got the acoustic and the electric, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like great. I'm no Jimi Hendrix, but I
Hey,
can play a little bit.
even Jimmy didn't, he wasn't born knowing how to play. All right, so stick at it.
True.
The UBS opportunity, it's a combination of not only the team, because they were people that I've greatly admired and really wanted to work with. So that was an exciting way to forge a new path with my career path having been almost 2 decades at AEG. What ultimately you get very siloed, right? Because you have a lot of managers or certain agents that really work with you. And then often there's it's like a whole segment of the business, and you'll see each other at conferences, or maybe you end up at a dinner or whatever it is. And you sort of know some people, but you don't really get to work with them very much. That this has sort of unlocked the other half of the business for me. And I've been able to get on phone calls off of the past few weeks with people who, it's really sort of like yes, instead of competing, we can actually work together, and that at least admiration of each other as competitors, of people who were, you were winning and losing against them, that now that exists. Tim and Irving are two incredibly inspirational leaders. So I'm excited about that. And then there's 2 gentlemen I'm working with, Hank Abate, who's the general manager, and Peter Luco, and they are both, legends in the arena management side. And these are areas for me to learn. I still want to learn. I still want to grow. So when that opportunity came up, that was great. And then, just to be able to go spend the remainder of this pandemic time preparing for something that will be great on the other side. You put those pieces together, and it was kind of a no-brainer.
Hey, Mark, what was the name of the group? You said that it was Irving Azoff. It was Oak Grove?
Oakview Group.
Oakview Grove?
Oakview Group. Here, I'll type it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I was just trying to look the Oakview Group. Okay. And now, if I can, I want to toss it to Ryan. Ryan, if you can ask the question about the Paul McCartney concert, I want to hear that story, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Mark, I read a Billboard article about your departure from AEG and how the Paul McCartney concert you organized, hearing the whole audience sing along with him was a really great moment in your career. What do you miss the most about organizing concerts? Is there one thing that stands out to you in particular, or is it, more of a general concept like hearing the audience sing?
We'll often refer to concert promotion as a wheel, right? It's, you get on this wheel and you're turning, and it's like, so we're always anywhere from 2 to 9 months into the future in our work, which is that we're always booking the next show, putting it on sale, just keep going and going and going and going. And eventually you can get to this point, and it's very easy to get to this point where you're not really in the moment, right? You're doing the show, but really you're not even paying attention that night. You're really concentrating on the next day's on sale, the settlement, or, something else. So for me, those moments where I can sort of get into the present and say, wow, I had this idea, right? And sometimes it'll be a pairing of bands where I'll be like, you know what, I'll call up one band and another one, go, hey guys, why don't we get together and do a show? And they do it and it sells out. And all of a sudden you're standing there and you're looking at this crowd who's having a great Saturday night, and everyone's like, the crowd's loud and they're jumping around. You're going, oh, this was kind of my idea, wasn't it? It's one of those few moments where I'll sort of let myself just sort of be like, I don't know what all these people would be doing tonight if I didn't have this idea, but you know what? I created this, and nothing is better than years later. Someone will tell me a story of, I went to this concert and, it was the greatest show. We never saw these bands play together, or they played this song that they never play. And my friends and I were so excited. We still talk about it. And you're just going, like, in my head, I'm smiling. They're like, why are you smiling? I'm just going, yeah, that was my idea, right? That was kind of cool. Like, it's not a power thing. It's just sort of a satisfaction of, you put something out there, it worked and it resonated with people and it stuck with them. It's like just a thing that's sort of in their life now. And, that you helped create that. I didn't get on stage. I don't play guitar. It's like, I'm not the one, I'm not the entertainer, but me as the promoter, I can create moments. And if I create a great moment, so that was just an example of, I was saying it was an August night. It was, unusually nice for, New Jersey in August, which can be hot and sticky or rainy. It was just like the beautiful, clear night. And you're in the stadium and there's 65,000 people. And all of a sudden, all of these people are singing this song. And I didn't write the song. I didn't play the song. But, I can at least appreciate that when the manager or the agent called me and said, what do you think we should do this summer? And I'm going, you know what? I think we could sell out the stadium. I think that if we do this right and we market it right, and I think it'll be amazing, and you've convinced them and you put yourself behind it, that when you're there in that moment, if you let yourself turn off everything else for a minute and just stare at it and realize what you accomplished, that in 10 years, when someone says, you know what, I was at that MetLife Stadium show and man, that was amazing. Like you go, yeah, that gives some satisfaction to, because being a promoter, being in the music business comes with tremendous trade-offs. It all sounds really good, but the truth is it's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, it's travel. Most of it's not at all glamorous. Every arena backstage looks roughly the same, right? You can literally be backstage somewhere, you'd be like, what city are we in? Like you just can't even remember at times when you're traveling from one to the other, right? So when you allow yourself to kind of get off the wheel, even if it's for a short moment, and appreciate it, that was what I was saying there. That was a very, I couldn't explain that in Billboard, but they sort of said, well, name a moment. And by the way, I've only got about 10 of those. Like I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of concerts, but I probably have about 10 moments where I truly said, yeah, this was really special, because a lot of the time you're just a cog in the wheel. Like someone's going out, they're playing 40 shows, you're going to go book it at the Beacon and it's fine. And it's a good night and everyone had a good time and it may have sold out instantaneously, but the really special ones, you don't forget.
Yeah. Great. I wanted to keep for an hour, Mark, but if I can get like 10 more minutes, because there's a couple more questions. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's good.
So the first one, so Selma has a question. I love these personal stories. So Selma has a question about working with one of my favorite artists who are not here anymore, unfortunately. So Selma, if you want to ask, or I can ask for, I don't know if I saw you a second ago. Okay, there you go.
My question was, how was your experience working with Prince?
Prince was absolutely genius. there are, a handful of artists on this planet who truly see the world in a different way. Their brains are just wired differently. It can make them really eccentric. It can make them really weird. It can make working with them very challenging. And often for the sake of their vision and their art, they're uncompromising. So with Prince, nothing was ever easy. Whatever it was, he would find a way to complicate it, and there was no negotiating, right? They didn't want to discuss the nuance or the challenge around what he wanted. It was your job to go make it happen. So I've done, I've done several, or I had done several shows with Prince. I mean, it's not many, he didn't play very often. AG did do a big arena tour at one point. For a long time, Prince played, and he kind of tortured the fans. Like, it was a good 15 years that he would only do a jazzy version of Raspberry Beret. It was he just wouldn't play it the way everyone wanted to hear it, and then he sort of got, I think, all of his challenges with the labels and his rights and everything else, that he finally came around and he just really started doing it, but there were still eccentricities. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. It was always short notice. It was always some type of fire drill. 9 times out of 10, you would plan concerts that never happened. They call up, Prince wants to play on Tuesday. He wants a venue that has a combination of seated and standing, and he wants the show to go on sale at 9 a.m. on Monday, but the tickets have to be sold no later than 10:30, and he wants to play at 4 in the afternoon on Tuesday. And you're just we're busy over. What are we going to do? And you go and you run and you take meetings and you try to figure things out. And then they go, yeah, he changed his mind. So now here's what he wants to do. And you would do these kind of, the Prince fire drill happened over and over and over. And you did it because it was Prince. Like, anyone else called you, you'd be like, call someone else, right? Like, some stupid band wants to do some ridiculous thing, you don't do it. But Prince lived in a world where that happened, right? Whatever it was he came up with, there were a group of people, and it was their job to go figure it out. So I never totally got the explanation, but he had determined that there was some mystical value to the number 3121. So they wanted to go do this event, and the only place that we could pull off the weird scenario was in our own place, but he wanted the place to be called 3121. It was going to be Club 3121 for one night. And we did this show, and so we took what was, I think, the PlayStation, it was a Nokia Theater in Times Square, and we covered up the name of the place, and we reprogrammed the marquee into Club 3121. We covered up all the signage for the night. The tickets were $31.21. We brought in all this furniture. We lit the whole place purple. Like, we went through all of this and got to see Prince perform in a place that held 2,000 people, and it was incredible. And actually, the biggest challenge was after all of that stuff, which wasn't the hard part. It was actually getting him in, because he wouldn't come in through the regular door, so we had to drive him into this parking garage and take him down an exit stairwell. But he was having trouble walking the stairs because he was wearing 9-inch heels. So he was a very little man.
And then just one last question that I'm gonna, Victoria and Lay have a kind of a marketing based question. And if I can, you guys, I'm gonna kind of smush them together and you guys can follow up. But, dealing with Prince, Paul McCartney, these big artists, it's somewhat the marketing or getting the people in the door is already baked. But any sort of stories or experiences or lessons, or when you have that new band that you're trying to bring into maybe a smaller room, because it's important that, right, the Bowery Presents crew was not always, the 5,000 arena. You had a lot of cool, intimate venues. So that makes sense.
Really important in marketing to develop, maintain, and have clarity of voice, which is how you speak to those fans in a way that's genuine. And it takes consistency and time to develop the credibility, where fans see you as more than just the corporate presenter of the show, right? If you want to get to the point where because you're doing the show, people believe that it's of greater value because your opinion has weight, and that you are communicating them in a way that it speaks to them as a fan, not as a consumer. And that is, we have shifted from 90%, call it traditional, 10% digital, to about 90% digital and 10% traditional. Radio ads, outdoor, print, flyers, all of those things that we did, which was the standard marketing campaign, are now a very, very small part. And now it's about how you break through in your digital marketing in a way and do it that's genuine to the experience. And, it's the even harder part is now. So like we have conversations right now about what, UBS Arena. Well, what is the voice of our arena? What is our personality? The buildings has to take shape. What is it going to be? It's a little challenging when you're the UBS Arena, right? When you're the Beacon, or you're, the Bowery Ballroom or things like that, it's easier to have credibility. But at the same time, whether you like it or not, you're going to have a voice. So what do you want it to be? And taking ownership of that. And it's just, something to think about as an event presenter. When you're speaking to the audience, who do they see?
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Mark. There was one more question, but I'm going to cut it out because Aiden wanted to know when are the Islanders going to win the Stanley Cup, and that may be beyond your purview. So I'll leave you. I cut that one out.
2022. It's coming. Let's go Islanders.
But Mark, thank you so much. This was great in ways I don't think you really can appreciate for a while. But I hope that if it's okay with you, I can share some information, or if they have if they have some more questions. I know there's going to be requests for internships maybe down the line once you're up and running. But I just really appreciate you taking the time for us, man.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to do it. It's great talking to you, and keep at it. When it's you feel passion for events, follow it. Okay. You don't want to regret that you didn't do it because it was hard or because the path wasn't clear. You'll figure out the path. Just get on it.
No doubt. All right, brother. I thank you again. I'll talk to you soon. I have a recording of this, if you ever want it for the archive for the Smithsonian when the time comes.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, man.
Yeah.